Hello, I'm Ryan, and welcome to episode 100 of Drinking Irish. Thanks y'all for your support over the last 3 and a bit months. It's been quite a wild ride. I've been doing this while also obviously working full time from the area you're seeing behind me here as my actual workplace during the day. And it's been great doing 100 Irish different beers now so far in the show. As I said, I'm going to do a beer already done tonight, but most importantly, I'm doing it having poured it from me Growler, and I will drink from the Growler on the show, even though I won't finish the pint in the show. So, the beer, I got this at 57, and it's a Galway Bay Growler, obviously, for those who didn't notice that. The beer is from 57, the headline, but it is 8 degrees, the full Irish. I figured, if I'm going to have something, out of the Growler for the show, got something with the name in it, and it's got Irish in it, so fuck it, basically. So, to 100 episodes, to all of you for the support. Don't worry, we'll get into the cool bit in a second. Sláinte live. Sláinte live Galere, but not in a goodbye sense. Great old beer, so it is. Actually, have I done a full Irish on the show? I'm just thinking now I mightn't have actually done a full Irish on the show. I'm not going to review it as a show at beer tonight, though. I have to go back, because when you've done 100 beers, you do lose track of which ones you've done, to be entirely honest. And the reason I'm not going to do it as this in the show tonight is pretty simple, to be honest. Like, it's been in the Growler a couple of days. I will not be giving it a fair treatment. It still tastes gorgeous, by the way, but it's not the fair what y'all want. So, I promised you some Q&A. So, I got 3 of them here below me in this, and I got 2 I remember from Twitter. So I'm going to do the 2 from Twitter first. One was from Brian Condren, which I think is a quite relevant one given what we've all been waiting for, which is, will I be going to a pub next week? Brian, if you all don't know, is pretty much one of the main people responsible for me getting into good fucking Irish beer. And I did manage to merge fucking feck there, saying it out loud. That's pretty, wow, yeah. And Brian's like, pretty much him, my John Craddock are the 2 who are probably have the most to blame for me getting into drinking Irish beer, mostly because they were getting into the homebrew at the time. And Brian is definitely how I know most of the brewers I first met early on, how I got to know so many of them. And so Brian asked will we go to a pub next week. I still am unsure, and that's not meant to be a fudging answer, but I really want my first pint back in a pub to be in Blackbird, and Blackbird hasn't said if they're reopening yet. So if Blackbird is reopening, yes, definitely I'll go in one night next week, not Monday. I'm not going to go in the Monday, Tuesday crowd. Well, I might do Tuesday, but not the Monday crowd, because like, Monday I think is going to be absolute, Craig Hughes and all that, and I got a pretty busy Tuesday. I just don't need that, basically. And I'm just going to try and meet some friends instead Monday evening, and because we can do that. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, if Blackbird's open, definitely. If it's not, I'm probably going to hold off until we know the stories with them. And if they're going to be ages, I might go somewhere for a tipple sooner than that, but I will tell you all on the show if I'm going to an actual pub and when I'm doing it. I promise you that. The second one was, I'm going to just double check here because it already has been answered in terms of one specific thing. It was from, who was it from here? Hang on, I'm going to Twitter here, sorry, I have to scroll down. Kevin Brazel asked a very simple question, but it's an important one because it's one I get asked a lot, Kevin. Although yours is about one in particular, but I get asked about Brewery A or Brewery B a lot. So Kevin was asking about where he can order one Chrysler Craft on its own. He was asking particularly about Dungarvan. Dungarvan got back to him in jig time, telling Kevin, here's where you can get our beer, baby. So that was great of them. So the first place I'm going to mention actually is directfrombrewery.com. Great effort by a couple of people who just decided we'll find one place where we can put as many of the different outlets you can buy from in one place. So, by the way, all the links to these are going to be in the description below. So, if you're looking at this via Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, you're going to have to go into the YouTube proper. Although if you're going on Twitter, you actually have to anyway. But to see the description, that part. But the YouTube description will have links to all of these. So Direct from Brewery is the first place I would tell you to look, entirely because it'll send you to all the other places I'm going to tell you and a bunch more. Second place I'm going to tell you is Beer Cloud, because the work they're doing, especially when it comes to full cases, tremendous. Great work as well by them. I know there's been quite a bit of work put in by a few of the heads. Dead Center, I think, are the main brains behind it, but they've brought a load of breweries on board. But I think Dead Center, obviously Mel's were the first ones who alerted me to it, so they get a bit of love from me as well for that. Dead Center, St. Mel's, and a bunch of other breweries, Black Donkey, there's a load of them. I'm not going to list them all off now, Real Deal. who I'm going to order a case from this week, by the way, because I still haven't done a real deal on the show, even though I know I can get it's a real deal. This weekend, I'm going to make it a real deal and order some of your beer. So that's one other place. Again, I'll put that in the link below. Beer Club, which is tremendous, really big fans of them because they have a lot of beers from Irish breweries which you just don't really find in any of those shops. So, and like also the service is tremendous, like, you know, now in fairness, all these service is great. I just find Quiva in particular just goes above and beyond when it comes to being friendly and helping out and making sure you get sorted with what you're looking for. Two others I'm going to mention are Craft Central, which is pretty well known by viewers of this show. I'm a huge fan of them. Also known as the Stephen Street News, the news agent, which is also one of the best offies in Dublin. Bizarrely, I say bizarrely because its location is not where you expect to find one of the best offies in Dublin. Like, it's just behind, it's not too far from Grafton Street, like it's sort of between Grafton Street and George Street, like, which is where Stephen Street is, and just, you know, type of place where you're going to have a regular news agent and you're going to have a good trade. They happen to also be one of the best off licenses in the city, so good for them, by the way. Art Key, so it's Craft Central as well. I will include the link there, craftcentral.ie, but again, that link will be below. The last one I'm going to mention for now is Art Keen, who are based in the southeast, in Waterford to be precise, and again, they've got a great variety, and as well, a few breweries which you just don't see elsewhere. How I got the Costello's can, which I still haven't thrown out yet. I say recycled, obviously. But like, you know, just looking at it, because like, I've really got to clean my place up. It's amazing how little of the absolute mess you see here. Before getting to the Facebook questions, I just want to say a couple of quick thanks. First off to Jared Hewitt. One, because he gave me a big favour yesterday, sorted out with my folks with some face masks, because I couldn't get out to them and he happens to live not too far from them, so thanks to him for that. But also for actually, I always talk about how I emmet a beer. Now, I didn't emmet this one. I had it poured beforehand and hadn't really been emitted. I hate to admit. I was kind of hoping I'd be telling you of a beer that had been emitted that I let settle, where it basically goes way too much head too quickly. Those of you who don't know, everybody in my siblings worked in a bar except for me. I just keep a lot open with my custom, and it clearly shows in the way I pour beer. But Jared's sort of grading how emitted a beer is based on how violently bad the head is, or gigantic the head is more accurately. So Jared, to you, Ed Fitch and Cavan, I got a big shout out to him as well. I am obviously going to, this is like, you know, I'm saying this sort of non-typically beer people who I'm giving shout outs to, because the beer people, there's too many of these to name. I'm going to name these all intermittently throughout. Ed, great lad, who's also been really good for, as well as the eyeball test, so telling me fix that for this your video, because it's stuff which, you know, he knows I'm not the most technically gifted guy going, despite being a technology journalist by day, so he's sort of using the old eyeball test to go, if you do this, you do that, and it's been really, really helpful. Also big shout out to my buddy Jen, basically, because she's been really supportive, and she's off to America, and you go, what, during this? She's American, well, she's also Irish, she's Irish-American, she's dual citizen, and she's up to stay with her mom for a month and a half to help out there, and she's going through all the protocols, she's doing everything the right way, don't worry, but giving her some love because she's gone off to America for about a month and a half there. I want to give her some love too, and I've obviously already thanked Brian for his shout out. Also want to give a bit of a buzz to everybody who's been getting in touch in the comments, who's been getting in touch from the brewers as well, be it on Twitter, be it DMing, be it private messaging, just saying how can we help here, how can we do this there. You know, there have been so many of you, and it's been great, seriously, because it makes my life easier if I know, hey, this beer's dropping today, or this beer's dropping next week, and it's a grand, keep an eye out for that, Like, Jeff in the headline's great for giving me the shout-outs of, by the way, we're going to be doing this. It's like, oh, cheers, Jeff. And, you know, just how are you getting the Growler? You know, and obviously Shabangi as well for helping me in getting the Growler the other day as well. Give her some love. So, on to the Facebook questions, though, because we are here for the questions. Jason Walsh. Now, all of these were answered personally on Facebook, but I decided to answer them all here. I think this is actually a really pertinent one. I would say relevant one. I don't actually know pertinent's the correct word. Have you discovered beers you'd likely not have due to the situation? And that's a great one. The short answer is no, with a gigantic but. And we'll pause for a sip for that. And a gigantic what really is that I've been lucky in two respects. One, as many of you know, I write about beer for the Business Post. So I've had a lot of beers of different varieties over the last 6 years on a professional basis, which is kind of gas. You know, just I was in for my job. So I've been able to go the full gamut from, you know, god awful to great. And my attitude is, because obviously don't get to go out every week with the Post with it anymore, because that's fine, by the way, it's the way it changed. But even when towards the end of it being on a weekly basis, my approach, generally speaking, was, and I get this a lot from Matt Nugent, who's a wine reviewer, I think I get his name right, and Matt's like kind of goes, he has a lot of different types of wine, he goes, people aren't coming to me for what not to drink, they're coming to me for what to drink. So I've been looking this particular show because it's 100 beers and they're all beers I'd have again. And is that, so a lot of them I already knew and they were great, and the others it was like buddy of mine who would have good taste. They go to me, Emmett, give this a go, or be a brewer who I just trust, and it's like also great. And so as Jason, by the way, has been a huge supporter of the show as well, so thanks to him too. And so I've been looking that I've been able to go through 100 beers, which I, even having not tasted them all, some of them were, a lot of them, well, I think most actually were first time tasting on the show. I had a good idea I was going to like it before I even cracked it open. A lot of it comes down to the quality of the brewers we have here, and also largely but not entirely going with styles I typically would drink. Like we had a double dry hop the other night, which isn't typically my style, but I loved it. And it's like, yeah, it's great. Like there's a lot of great Irish beer out there. Like if trust me, if you want me to do a beer that's terrible, fine. Just you're gonna have to find it for me because I'm gonna have to come up with a good excuse to do it. It's like because the last terrible beer I had, and it wasn't Irish actually. And I say terrible, I don't mean not great or so. So I mean this was a fucking crime against alcohol, or in fact liquid. It was a crime against liquid, be it alcoholic or not. And the last one wasn't Irish, like I said, it was an AC/DC beer. This would be about 5 years ago, because the lads who, this is like, my mates went off to Slovakia to watch UCD play Slovan Bratislava. I sadly couldn't go at the time, because believe me, watching UCD in Europe, oh yeah, that was like an adventure even at home, is how I put it. And the lads found this in a bar, and they basically managed to convince the guy to just give it to them, I think. I don't think even they paid for it. So this warm kind of AC/DC beer, which they had for their tour that year. And so I figured, fuck it, I've got to do this for the paper. Because I've done the Iron Maiden beers, one of which is perfectly cromulent, that's the Trooper. Trooper 666, which is really good but very dangerous, because even though it's only 6.6%, goes down way too feckin' fast. It's gorgeous, but it's just too fast. The AC/DC beer, which sadly, or probably thankfully, I don't remember the name of. Think of Dutch Gold, and don't think of it for what it is, which I think is perfectly fine it was, but think of Dutch Gold as going in for the best beer in the world. No pound for pound, you are just pure sip and taste. Dutch Gold tastes like the best beer in the world compared to the AC/DC beer. In fact, that's an insult to Dutch Gold even saying that. That's how bad it was. It was vile. So that's the last truly terrible beer I had. I've had lots of ones that would be whatever. Like me personally, I haven't done any saisons in the show yet. Honestly, because we're in hay fever season, I review saisons for the paper. I typically don't drink them very often because I find it on the green of my nose. Taste wise, I generally like them. I just find actual physiologically, my nose just pops a bit at them, so I don't really drink them as a regular basis, but I will do them for the show near the later, basically, not this time of year. I should have done some earlier in the show in hindsight, but I just didn't want to risk any hay fever type stuff because I genuinely get those sort of symptoms. So that's why that is. So very meandering. So our next one's a nice simple one. Gary Maloney, who's a mate of mine from my NFL Fantasy League. How's the liver? Those of you who watch the show regularly will know the answer to that is actually pretty grand, because I typically, this is actually rarity, I've had 2 beers before this tonight, because I was meeting a friend, Jen, who's off to America, again, socially distanced, outdoors, and usually though, pretty much universally actually, I'm trying to even think, there was maybe one exception, and even then there was several hours in between having the beer and recording the video. My first beer of the day is always the Drinking Irish beer. And the reason for that is quite simple. I want to make sure that I'm giving a very honest reflection, but also it's a good way of keeping the moderation going, to be honest, and making sure I'm not going too mad midweek, because when you're storing as many quality beers as we are in this place, it can get risky pretty fast. So I typically don't have my first beer until I'm doing Drinking Irish, and as you can see from tonight's video, sometimes it can be pretty late. So that's why that is. And the last question, and I'm deliberately saved this one to last, because it's Oscuelga from Ronan Mishdale. Don't worry, I will translate as well, but as a Gaeilgeoir, I'd actually like to both say it Oscuelga and answer Oscuelga, and likewise say, well, translate for both. Cyn Rúdlon is Farlad and Éireann ó Thaobh Caighdeán agus Réimse, which translates as, what brewery do you like the most in Ireland in terms of standard and range? And I said to Ronan, I actually didn't answer him directly on the day, I said to him, I'm gonna have to think about it. And so dúirt mí le Ronan go méoch ar smaoineamh faoi agus an fógad doras sin ná ceapan ní féidir lom an dáróil chuir le chéile mar an taon rud. Níor tá smíanamh faoi caiidán, like, níl éon doubt agam, agus níor tá chur an ceisiil sios, níl mé caint faoi, ord caiidán a gcónaí, nó chuiríon man caiidán, tá mé caint faoi an méid mé, ag smíanamh gan éolalas a bheith agam, anam an grúdlána eáil, agus sin oid sin méid is agam, beag an beor sin na tatan bhfuim. Agus sin ar aigert cinnagar mar an isce atá acu. There's bíon gach beor déanaan siad co-ór, tá sé just ró éic go dómh déanamh cinse go bhfuil tú chun tanmh buinte as a beor gach ór a dhéanaan siad. So I was saying there that Kinnigar and Donegal is the favourite for mine in terms of standard, but I can't really compare standard and range as one thing. To me, they're two different things. And the reason I say Kinnigar for standard, I'm not talking about who does the best of the best all the time or even who's the best on average, but just seeing the name of the brewery, do I reckon I'm probably going to like the beer? And Kinnigar is one I'd say for that, entirely because their water is just so fresh, their beer is always fresh, and I'm always going to like a Kinnigar beer. An rudel dúirtín an réimse de bhór sin, níor mis bíanamh réimse sin ceann deacair, mar bhí mé chun nuair mé chun éon duna díreacha ará, ach tá mé chun dul beagání cumadic an seo, beidir gur méid chun spóla mar daoine ra, hey, ceirfí seo. Cad mí fannacht le na lads an seo, 8 degrees, mar, it's an am atá si there an bhód ó heh réimse, tá si tar éis taspóint go bhfuil sin an ann dul chuileáid, agus beor ma a dhéanamh, agus gohfuil sin an dul chuileáid agus iad chur ar marga. Bailach omlan difriúil sin ráite ná cam é ó brother, as blach lí étain, ceapan, nó an bud sin is Kilvantan iad. Agus mar na beor is mógur fearlam as an grúpa sin ná beor loidir acu, ag tá an réimseo heh beor loidir an lehan. Lehan's the right word, isn't it? Broad arenas. Agus the war sin tá chun dul leis an dáróid sin rá. So what I was saying there was, in terms of range, I'm going to be a little bit conservative, which might be a bit controversial, by saying 8 degrees, because I think in terms of their range, they've been able to hit so many different spots in terms of types of beers, and these guys here, and be able to show they can do them all, probably go with them. But that said, Oh Brother, who, if you might have noticed, I said I think they're from Dublin, but actually they're from Wicklow. While it's their stronger beers I tend to prefer, they've shown they've good range when it comes to strong beers. But like, listen, I would, and I'm not saying this to be politically fucking safe or anything, but like, I really do recommend people try out loads of different breweries, because what I love with drinking is variety, because everybody knows, I've said those two, but everybody knows my go-to if you watch this is Vietnam from Brew. That is my favourite beer on the market. It tastes like home to me, is how I describe it. That's what it is. And I think, find your one of that, like, the biggest compliment I can give it is when a lot of brewers say, it's my Guinness, it's the beer I want when I just want a fucking beer. It's just beautiful and everything going. So Marvies are an beor as far lumsan á Vietnam was na lads trouble, agus sin an beor baliadom, agus mo Guinness, agus de bhór sin ceapam hain, go bh ceart gait in the chat there, sais beor den sort sin a tamar beor baliadom hain, agus beor sin beor go bhfuil de gearing your top beor ma ag tastrol wohu paylog or bay. And I'm going to go back to just in Berlin now, because I know it's going to be confusing a few too many of our viewers, but I have been going direct translations there, which is pretty good. We must make sure the TG car folks see this, seeing how I've been jumping back and forth. Take that, Hector. Anyway, listen, on that note, because I've seen how far we're going, I'm not going to have a sip from this just yet, because actually no, we're not going to have a sip from this at all, because I'm going to tell you all tonight, but I'm going to have the sip from my Galway Bay Growler. Galway Bay as well. By the way, seriously, all the breweries who've been so helpful, you're all are great. But to everybody viewing, everybody on 100 episodes, Sláinte Liv Galair. This is definitely not within COVID rules. Hey, 100 episodes.